I also have missed some of the series due to travel. I had an opportunity to go to the States for a conference, and while I was there I took a week's holiday and went down to New Orleans to visit my sister and her family. And it was a wonderful week, a beautiful city, but a city that's been decimated by a hurricane over 2 years ago, Hurricane Katrina, that many of you will remember from the news at the time. While I was there, I asked Suzanne before I went to see if she could find a black church, something I've never experienced, and I've got lots of pictures on my mind as to what that is. And her husband Mike took us to this little church, Carver Desire Baptist Church, in one of the poorer neighbourhoods of New Orleans, and I was there 3 weeks ago. Wonderful little church. There were 50 people there that Sunday. 3 years ago, pre-Katrina, there would have been over 100. In fact, they were building a new building just down the road because they had outgrown their facility. The neighbourhood that they're in, Carver Desire, if you know the old-time musical A Streetcar Named Desire, well, that's the suburb that this church is in, was a neighbourhood pre-Katrina of 6,500 people. And today, 150 live there. The rest of them have been scattered around the states. They evacuated and never come back, or they come back and they live in other parts of the city because their houses were washed away when the levees flooded, or they were destroyed when they were flooded for 6 weeks. And I'm sitting there in this black church having a rich experience, everything I expected, the people yelling and hollering all through the sermon, and it was just a wonderful experience. But I tell you what struck me most in terms of God is closer than you think was the sheer dignity of the people in this church. When you think of what African American people have gone through in America over centuries and what brought them to America as slaves, and they live in a poor neighbourhood that was built so they could be the low-paid workers at the port just down the road. And then Hurricane Katrina struck and washed away their suburb. And the system has failed them so much that only 150 have been able to move back, and some of them are still scattered in other parts of the country. And this tall white guy turns up from New Zealand, and they couldn't have been more polite and more gracious. They couldn't have celebrated their God in any more real sense. And so this morning I'm thinking of Pastor James Wallace and his people sitting there. They'll be having their service in about 15, 16 hours due to the time difference. And they'll be having another service in a suburb that's destroyed. I've got photos that just showed grass where houses used to be. But they're going to rebuild their neighbourhood. They're going to do it. They've got no money to do it, but they're going to do it, and they're praying that God will send them the resources and the people and the facilities that they need. So if you've got time, pray for Carver Desire Baptist Church. Pray for Pastor James Wallace and his people there. Pray for what God puts on your heart, but that's what's on my heart. God was much closer than I thought he could be to me and amongst all of the destruction of Hurricane Katrina.